So, hello everyone. We are from Group 6. Now we want to share about our presentation about perception and individual decision making. Here's our group members. First is Adriani Hermawan, minority 005, Nur Aini 014, Anggie 050, Amira Rida 063, and Filsa 073. This is our table of content. First one is factors that influence perception. Second is attribute theory. Third is the link between perception and individual decision making. Fourth is rational model, called rationality and intuition. Five is influence on decision making, individual differences, and organizational constraints. Six is three ethical decision criteria. Seventh is three-stage model of creativity.
Perception may be prepared by which people organize and interpret their tangible impression in a range to grant meaning to their environment. Be that as it may, what we see can be significantly distinctive from objective reality. For illustration, all representative in a frame may see it as an extraordinary put to work, favorable working condition, curiously work assignment, great pay, fabulous benefit, understanding, and capable management. But as most of us know, it's exceptionally unordinary to find such agreement. And according to Alan Sachs and Gary Jones, there are three components that influence to perception, such as perceiver, situation, and target. Perceiver is a person whose awareness is focused on the stimulus and just begin to perceive it. Factor in the perceiver, there are attitude, motive, interest, experience, and expectation. All of these factors greatly contribute to how the person perceives a situation. Often, the perceiver may employ what is called a perceptual defense, where the person will only see what they want to see. They will only perceive what they want to perceive, even though the stimulus acts on his or her sense. And then situation is the environmental factors, timing and degree of stimulation that affect the process of perception. These factors may render a single stimulus to be left as a merely a stimulus, not a percept that is subject for brain interpretation. Factor in the situation, there are time, work setting, and social setting. And then target or the object of perception. It is something or someone who is being perceived. The amount of information gathered by the sensory organs of the perceiver affects the interpretation and understanding about the target. Factor in the target, there are novelty, motion, sound, size, background, proximity, and similarity. Attribution theory. Attribution theory tries to explain the ways in which we judge people differently depending on the meaning we attribute to a given behavior. It is a case that when we observe an individual's behavior, we attempt to determine whether it was internally or externally caused. However, the determination depends largely on three factors. The determinants of attribution are distinctiveness, consensus, and consistency. Distinctiveness, it refers to where an individual display different behavior in different situations. The most important is to find out whether his behavior is unusual. If it is unusual, the distinctiveness is high and highly likely it is an external attribution. If it's not unusual, the distinctiveness is low and highly likely it is an internal attribution. And then consensus, if everyone who faces a similar situation responds in the same way, we can say the behavior, so consensus. And the last one is consistency. It is situation whether the individual behave identically from case to case in the given situation. It calls consistency.
So the next one is the link between perception and decision making. Perception is the organization, identification, and interpretation of sensory information in order to represent and understand the presented information or environment. So it's a way of someone understanding or interpreting something. And decision making is the process of making choices by identifying a decision, gathering information, and assessing alternative resolutions. So what kind of relationship between perception and decision making had? So individuals always make decisions. We always make decisions, and every individual's perception influence the decisions they made. And also the quality of their decisions. The decision making occurs as a reaction to a problem, and a problem means a discrepancy exists between the current state of affairs and some desired state, and it requires someone to consider alternative courses of action. So for example, one manager may view her division's 2% decline in quarterly sales to be a serious problem, and she makes decision immediately to act on it. But in the other hand, another manager may view her division's 2% decline in quarterly sales is not a serious problem, so she doesn't bother making any decision about it because it's not an urgent problem for her. And that's how perception influences someone in making her or his decision as the reaction of a problem. Every decision requires us to interpret and evaluate information. So we typically receive data from multiple sources that we need to screen, process, and interpret. So which data are relevant to the decision and which are not? Our perceptions will answer that question. Next.
The rational model. The rational model. The rational model bounded rationality and intuition. First point, bounded rationality, because the human mind cannot formulate and solve complex problem with full rationality, so that operate within the confines of bounded rationality and then construct simplified model that extract the essential future form problem without capturing all their complexity, and yes, then behave rationally within the limits of the simple model. Next point, rational decision making model is a decision making model that describes how individuals should behave in order to maximize some outcome. Last point, intuitive decision making occur outside conscious thought, released on holistic association or link between disparate pieces of information is fast and is effectively charged, meaning it engages the emotion. Next. Common bias and error in decision making, that is overconfident bias, ensuring bias, confirmation bias, availability bias, escalation of commitment, randomness error, risk aversion, hindsight bias. Next. So the next is influences on decisions making, and there are two main factors that can influence decisions making, which are individual differences and organizational constraint. The first is individual differences. There are five factors that may affect individual differences, which are personality, gender, mental ability, cultural differences, and nudging. First is personality. The researcher suggests that personality influences our decisions, and there are two main factors that affect personality, which are conscientiousness and self-esteem. Specific facet of conscientiousness may affect escalation of commitment. And achievement-oriented people hate to fail, so they escalate their commitment, hoping to forestall failure. And self-esteem or a general self-perception of being good enough is a rather stable trait. People with high self-esteem are strongly motivated to maintain it, so they use the self-serving bias to preserve it. And sometimes they blame others for their failures while taking credit for successes. And second is genders. Who makes better decisions? It depends on the situations. When the situation isn't stressful, decisions making by men and women is about equal in quality. But in stressful situation, it appears that men become more egocentric and make more risky decisions, while women become more empathetic and their decisions making improve. And women spend more time than men when they are analyzing the past, present, and future. They're more likely to overanalyze problems before making a decisions and to rehash decisions once made. And this can make problems harder to solve, increase regret over past decisions, and increase depression. However, the gender differences seems to lessen with age. And the third is mental ability. People with higher levels of mental ability are able to process information more quickly, solve problems more accurately, and learn faster. However, mental ability appears to help people avoid only some of them, and probably because being smart doesn't alert you to the possibility you're too confident or emotionally defensive. And it's not that intelligence never matter, but once warn you about decisions making errors, more intelligent people learn more quickly to avoid them. And the next factor is cultural differences. The cultural background of a decisions maker can significantly influence the selections of problems, the depth of analysis, and the importance placed on logic and rationality, and whether organizational decisions should be made autocratically by an individual manager or collectively in groups. Cultures in Cultures differs in time orientations, the value they place on rationality, their beliefs in the ability of people to solve problems, and their preferences for collective decisions making. And lastly, in individual differences is nudging. Nudging has also been used positively in the development of corporate social responsibility or CSR initiative to change people expectations for organizations. People differ in their success susceptibility to suggestion, but it is probably fair to say we are all receptive to nudging to some degree. And nudging uses psychology to circumvent our natural negative tendency. And in organizations, nudging usually involves strategic placement of facts and researches that subtly suggest better decisions. Next. And the next is organizational constraint. Organizations can constrain decisions maker, creating deviations from the rational models. And there are five factors in organizational constraints. The first is performance evaluation system. Managers are influenced by the criteria on which they are evaluated. If they believe the manufacturing plants under his responsibility are operating best when he hears nothing negative, the plant's managers will spend a good part of their time ensuring the negative information doesn't reach him. The second is reward system. The organization's reward system influence decisions maker by suggesting which choices have better personal payoffs. If the organization's reward risk aversions, managers are more likely to make conservative decisions. The third is formal regulation. Informal regulation, all but the smallest organization create rules and policies to program decisions and get individuals to act in the intended manner. In doing so, they limit decision choices. The next is system imposed time constraint. And almost all important decisions comes with explicit deadlines. This is often make it difficult, and if it not impossible for managers to gather all information before making a final choice. And lastly is historical precedents. Decisions are met in with a context. Individual decisions are points in a stream of choices, and choices made today are largely a result of choices made over the years. Next.
Three ethical decision criteria. Uh, First criterion, utilitarianism, which purpose making decisions solely on the basis of their outcome. Second criterion is whistleblower, when they reveal on organization unethical practice to the press or government agencies using their right to free speech. Three criteria is behavioral ethic, analyzing people behave when confronted with ethical dilemmas. Next.
Next is three-stage model of creativity. And there is three-stage model of creativity, and that is the plot. First is causes of creative behavior. Second is creative behavior. And so it can produce creative behavior. Creative behavior occurs in four steps. First is problem formulation. Formulation is the stage of identifying a problem or opportunity that requires a solution as yet unknown. Next is information gathering. Information gathering is the stage of creative behavior when knowledge is sought and possible solution to a problem incubate in an individual's mind. This stage can lead us to identifying innovation opportunities. Next is idea generation. In this stage, we develop possible solutions to a problem from relevant information and knowledge. The last is idea evaluation. Idea evaluation is the process of creative behavior in which we evaluate potential solution to identify the best one. There are three factors that can make people become creative. The factors are creative potential and creative environment. The first one is creative potential. Has four aspects that can lead us to become a creative person. First is intelligence. Smart people are more creative because they are better at solving complex problems and have greater working memory. And the second is personality. Open individual, proactive personality, self-confidence, risk-taking, tolerant for ambiguity, and perseverance correlate with creativity. And the third is expertise. Expertise is the foundation for our creative work, and this is the single most important predictor to of creative potential. The last is ethics. According to the recent research, people who cheat may actually be more creative than those who have behave ethically. Next is creative environment. The next is creative environment. It is influenced by motivation, team, managers, culture, leadership, and diversity. And the final stage is outcomes. Creative outcomes is idea or solution judged to be novel to and useful by relevant stakeholders. Solutions are creative only if they help solve the problems, because ideas are useless if it doesn't help to solve the problems. Creative idea needs to be translated into the result.
So the next one is real world case. Next. We don't think reading the whole article is necessary, so we provide a QR code that link this article for everyone to read it, or you can just type the link address. So the title of this article is "Why Do We Still Distrust Women Leaders?" from BBC. This article is about how people across the world still don't trust women to lead effectively, and this is a real world case because the author wrote this article based on the conducted survey. So Reykjavik Index assesses Reykjavik Index assesses attitudes towards female leadership in the G7 countries: Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the UK, and the US. And only 38% of people in Japan were comfortable with the idea of a female head of government or a female CEO of a major company. Only 41% of people in Germany said that they felt very comfortable with a woman being the head of government, in spite of Angela Merkel's long-time chancellorship. Next. So the case analysis, based on the conducted survey, some in this world still distrust women to become leaders. They have a different perspective on women leaders from people who trust women leaders. And so let's analyze the factors that influence the perception of women leaders. The first one is perceiver. Perceiver is when you look at a target, your interpretation of what you see is influenced by your personal characteristics, attitudes, personality, motives, interests, past experiences, and expectation. Some people with different personal characteristics may have different perceptions of women leaders. In Group 6 opinion, people with strict personalities, strict rules, strict backgrounds, or strict culture in the leading context may distrust women leaders. Meanwhile, people with easygoing personalities may trust women more to lead them. And also past experiences and expectation. It's possible that the rest of the people that aren't comfortable with women leaders did have bad experiences of women leading them, and it broke their good expectations of women leaders. And the second one is target. People who distrust women leaders may think that women's characteristics are not suitable for a leadership position. They have a perspective that men's characteristics are more suitable for a leadership position, and this factor took us to one type of common shortcuts in judging others. That's called stereotyping. It's common for beliefs about leadership to default to stereotypes about masculine behavior, leading to unconscious gender bias. And the stereotype of women as weak. They always involve their emotion more than logical thinking. That kind of stereotype what made some people distrust women leaders. Next. So what is the effect? Once again, it's affecting the decision making. The perspectives of women leaders affect someone when there are times they should choose a leader for the team, their company division, their small or big organization, president election, government election, and many more. So for example, the problem is choosing a compatible leader for the operational division of a company, and there are some women candidates for this position. So people with the perspective of women shouldn't lead will probably end up with a decision of not choosing the woman candidates despite the candidate's excellence. Meanwhile, people with the perspective of women can lead probably end up choosing one of the woman candidates if they think that the candidate is suitable for the position. Next. So that's all from our group. Thank you for listening to us. Thank you.